Namaskar, hello and a very warm welcome to CIET NCERT's special live phone-in interactive program. This is for teaching learning interventions for inclusive classroom, and in this particular program we are here to discuss chapter number 5, quality, for all the 7th class students. My name is Tanvi Khurana, and in this English class we are going to have really fun. So if you have read this chapter, you know what this chapter is all about and you want to raise certain questions, then please give us a call on our number, which is 8800440559. If you want to email us your questions, the email ID would be dth.class7@ciet.nic.in. You can see on your screens we have a sign language interpreter who will be interpreting each and every word for all of you. So let me introduce him to all of you. He is a Mr. Aniket Panda. A very warm welcome to you, sir. So we also have an expert with us, and he'll be explaining you this chapter in detail. He'll be also reading the summary, the synopsis of this entire chapter. So let me introduce him to all of you. He is a Mr. Sharvdat Anand. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sir is an assistant professor of special education from Manav Rachna University, Faridabad, Haryana. And you're more than welcome to raise your questions. You're watching us on PMeVIDYA channel number 7 and also on our YouTube channel, which is NCERT Official. In the live chat box, you can write down your questions, queries and share them with us. So we'll wait for your questions till 12:30. We have got a lot of time. Let's start this discussion and let's ask Sir, what is this chapter all about? Sir.
So, ma'am, before we start the chapter, I would request you to please close your eyes.
Okay.
And just listen to the sound. And what can you guess what sound it is?
It's like somebody is walking.
Exactly. So how do we walk?
Footsteps.
Yes, footsteps. And what do we wear in our feet?
Footwear. Shoes?
Exactly, ma'am. So today's the chapter is about shoes only. It deals with the quality of the shoes. That is why the name of the chapter is quality.
Okay.
So moving on, when we see in my slide, I have given a picture of shoes.
Yeah.
So why this photo is there? Because to explain the chapter, what is there in this chapter, this picture is used so that it can be used to tell children with and without special needs that what the chapter is dealing about, because more or less the concrete thing of the chapter is based on shoes.
Right.
That is why this image will make things clear for the children that yes, we are going to study about shoes.
Okay. So is that a shoe or a boot? As in, what do we call it exactly?
See, ma'am, basically I have used two pictures. One, there is a shoe.
Right.
This is a shoe.
Right.
And the second one is a boot, because in the chapter we will see that the author is talking about variety of shoes.
Okay.
Because the author is in a profession that he wears a lot of shoes, and he has a fascination for shoes also.
Okay.
So that is why these two types of shoes I have shown in the slide.
Okay. So can we say that is it one of the teaching learning material you would be using this in your inclusive classroom?
Yes, ma'am, exactly. Because by using pictures, what we are doing is that we are giving the children sense of real life.
Right.
That what shoes look like, especially when we are dealing with children with visual impairment. So for them, it will be a very good thing. And with children with other children also, that they will see what a shoe is. And what a boot is.
Right.
It will be clearer to them that what is the difference between a shoe and a boot.
Okay. So let's understand this concept better, and let's also understand what is the difference between these two, and are these for different purposes or the same purpose. So let's just go through the chapter once, and here it is.
So the story starts with the author telling us about Mr. Gessler. So Mr. Gessler is the person who owns a shoe shop. So he is a person who is making shoes not from a day or two, but from a very long time, from decades. The author's father also used to get his shoes made from Mr. Gessler only. So the author was very fascinated and he only wanted that Mr. Gessler should make his shoes. Why? Because it was very certain that the author liked the fitting of the shoes which Mr. Gessler made. That is the main reason why he was so keen on that Mr. Gessler should only make those shoes.
Okay.
Then the story is set in Germany. That is why it talks about Gessler. Mr. Gessler, he is a German shoemaker. And the author knows the shoemaker from his childhood days. So there is a very long acquaintance between the author and the shoemaker. And his shop was also not very far away from the author's house. So that also is a reason why the author always bought his shoes from the shoemaker. As it also, we will see in the later in the chapter also, that people from London also came to buy shoes from this particular shoemaker.
Okay.
Because the quality of the shoes was so good.
Okay. So even today, do we say that the German shoes are really great in quality?
Yes, ma'am. As in the chapter also, you will see that the author will be talking about leather. The quality of leather that the shoemaker was using, why the quality was so good. We will move on as we move on in the chapter. We will see why the author was so keen and was so fascinated about the shoes made by Mr. Gessler.
Okay.
So moving on, one day the author went to the shoe shop and Mr. Gessler was not there, and he could only see some boots or shoes which were there in the shop, and he was very, very shocked, surprised, that because from a long time he had not seen Mr. Gessler leave the shop.
Okay.
So he was a little amazed that why did he leave the shop. But then he saw Mr. Gessler coming out with a pair of shoes which the author had ordered.
Okay.
As soon as the author saw his shoes, he became very happy, and the author himself had a pair of shoes, which he bought from some other shop. Then he came to Mr. Gessler and showed him the shoes with a smile on his face. Why the smile was there? Because he wanted Mr. Gessler to tell what was the fault in the shoes. So here, firstly, Mr. Gessler corrected the author. He told him that these are not shoes, these are boots. And secondly, he told that he knew exactly where the shoes were hurting the author. And the author was very amazed to know that how Mr. Gessler knew that where were the shoes hurting him and why were the shoes so uncomfortable to him. Then the author said he was going to the store many often, but with breaks, because the shoes which were made by Mr. Gessler were of so good quality that once the author had ordered some shoes and the shoes were ready, he did not need to go again and again. It would be months and years where the author used to go again to buy some shoes. That was one of the reasons that the author liked to go to Mr. Gessler's shop.
Okay. Okay, so there are certain words we can see in this chapter. Would you like to explain what is unprofessional, and then wonderful, and then there's skilled, and then there's mysterious?
Yes, ma'am. One by one we will take the words.
Yeah.
The first word was unprofessional.
Yeah.
So the word unprofessional, which is being used in this chapter, it is used by author because to make a comparison between a skilled worker and an unskilled worker. The other word which is used in this paragraph. So unprofessional means that the shoemaker, Mr. Gessler, told the author that the shoemaking is an art, and people who do not know how to make perfect shoes are not professional. So basically, professional and unprofessional means to be very serious about one's profession.
Okay.
And the second word was
wonderful.
Wonderful. The word means which the author is using. The author was so fascinated with the shoes made by Mr. Gessler that he did not like any other shoe. That is why he used the word wonderful, because for him no other shoe would match the quality and the compassion of the shoe which was made by Mr. Gessler.
Okay. So there's a sentence here, if we can read, it's the third last sentence. A guttural sound would come from upstairs and tip-tap of the shoemaker's slippers as he would descend the stairs. So can you explain the guttural sound, and also we're talking about shoes here, so why has he mentioned shoemaker's slippers and not shoemaker's shoes?
Yes, ma'am. The first part, what the guttural sound mean? So guttural is a German word, and guttural sound means that when the shopkeeper used to stay in a house where there was wooden flooring. So when the shoemaker was moving, his slippers were making a sound. So the sound which the slippers were making, it is known as a guttural sound. Now why the shoemaker was wearing a slipper even though he himself was a shoemaker? So that is the main crust of our chapter, that the author wants to portray that due to his belief in quality, the belief of the worker in the quality, the shoemaker did not make shoes for himself, because for making shoes the shoemaker used to take a lot of time. Why? Because he was very particular about the quality. So to be perfect in the quality, the shoemaker himself used every inch of money he had to perfect the shoes. That is why for himself he did not have any money left. That is why the author has also said that the shoemaker had an unprofessional look.
All right, and we can also see that there are certain emotions used here. Mr. Guttural, the main protagonist who is here, he is using that he smiled and he was happy when he see the other person, and then he was shocked and then amazed. So these are all emotions. And it's difficult to explain the concept of emotions or different emotions in an inclusive classroom where we have children with special needs. So is there any particular concept you would use to explain this concept?
Yes, ma'am. See, as you said, emotions is a very abstract concept, and it needs a very in-depth explanation. Children with special needs find it particularly difficult to differentiate between emotions. So why the shoemaker was smiling? Why the author was smiling, why he smiled back. So while teaching in class, we should make a demarcation between the emotions as to when the word came smile. So we should be particular why the author was smiling. So when the word came smiling, we need to give a detailed explanation that why there was a smile and what is the difference between a smile and a laughter. So that the children don't get confused between smile and a laughter.
Okay. Let's just move forward with the story.
Yes, ma'am. Now, what happened was, now the author, he would see that the author is describing the process of making the shoes. So firstly, he said that the author was bending, the shoemaker was bending leaning towards taking a leather. The author himself saw that the shoemaker was selecting the leather also very particularly. So he would not even blink even a little to select the leather which he was using, as the leather was also of very good quality. The author was speaking by his experience, because he had shoes earlier made by Mr. Gessler only. So that is why he knew that the leather which was being used by Mr. Gessler was of very good quality. So Mr. Gessler used the leather which was of a quality which did not deteriorate very soon. That is why the author was very happy that he saw Mr. Gessler choosing the leather very proficiently and taking his time to get the perfect leather, perfect sole for the shoe which he was going to make for the author. Then the shoemaker himself asked the author that at what time the author wanted his shoes to be ready. So the author knew that the shoemaker used to take a lot of time for getting the shoes ready. So he himself said that I will take the shoes after a fortnight. So now here, what does the word fortnight means? So we should explain the children that fortnight means 15 days. So that there is no confusion while giving the explanation. So as the author told him that he will take the shoes after a fortnight, the shopkeeper was also a little relieved, as the author realized that it would not be easy for the shoemaker to fulfill the demands and present the shoe within a week or 5 or 6 days. That is why the author himself told him to take 15 days and make a perfect shoe for him.
Okay.
So moving on, the author remembered that the shoemaker used to live with his brother. But his brother was nowhere to be seen.
Okay.
So he became a little worried. He thought, where would his brother be? And why did his brother leave him? All these thoughts were going on in his mind. Then he suddenly realized that there were very less customers compared to earlier in the shoemaker's shop.
Okay. So in this passage also we can see certain words. Would you please explain these to our viewers? We can see dream, admire, conveniently, and then awakened, and leather apron.
So one by one we will go to the words. First word was, ma'am?
Dream.
Dream. So here the dream was of the author. He, as I in the beginning also I told that he had a fascination for shoes. So he had a dream of having perfect shoes.
Okay.
So dream here means that what his goal was to achieve from the shoemaker.
Okay.
The second one,
Admire.
Admire is that the shoemaker was a fan. In simpler words, we can say he's a fan. He was a fan of the shoemaker, the author, because he would make perfect shoes without a fault. So he admired the shoemaker's skills.
Okay. So one can admire anybody for their skills.
Yes, ma'am. Anything can be admired in any person.
Okay. Conveniently.
Conveniently means that the thing which can be very easily available. For the shoemaker, it was convenient when the author told him to give him 15 days to get the shoes ready.
Okay.
So it became convenient for him to take his time and give him a perfectly made shoe.
Okay. Awakened.
Awakened means that the author realized, he was awakened that the shoemaker did not have anyone in his family left.
Okay.
So he was awakened that the shoemaker was alone. So he needed more time to make the shoe.
Okay. Leather apron.
Leather apron is a type of tool which is used in Germany to make shoes. It is a type of technique also, we can say, wherein the leather is folded and it is transformed into the shape of a shoe.
Okay. So here we can see that the shoemaker has used leather to make these shoes. Other than leather, what all material can be used to make shoes or boots?
Ma'am, basically when we are talking about boots only, the author has also told that boots were generally made in author's time, it was generally made of pure leather only.
Okay.
Because they had to withstand harsh weather conditions. And to keep their feet warm, a good quality leather was used.
Right.
So basically that is why there is usage of the word leather again and again.
Right.
And the author was also very particular about good quality leather being used.
Apart from that, can we even use normal cloth
Yes,
for
ma'am,
the rest of the shoes?
Yes, we can use depending upon the weather conditions of the place.
Okay.
Any kind of material can be used.
Okay. So you said that leather apron is a German thing. So any German words or any German vocabulary which is adding to our viewers' dictionary when they are reading this chapter?
Yes, as we will move on, we will see there are certain words. Like there is a German word which the author has used for brother.
Okay.
So as we will move with the chapter, we will see that the word will also come for brother.
Okay.
So moving on, one day the author came to Mr. Gessler with shoes which broke. The shoe was made by Mr. Gessler only. So the shoe broke, but it broke after a very long time. So he came to Mr. Gessler and asked him that how come the shoe broke so early. He was testing the shoemaker to know whether he remembered his technique or not. So the author became a little sorrowful so that it would look real. But the shoemaker knew and he had confidence in his skills. So immediately he explained that the boots were bought from somewhere else. He hasn't made the boots. He remembered it very clearly. The author once more ascertained that he had bought the boots from him only. But Mr. Gessler was very confident that these boots were not made by him. He was so confident that he even told the author that where the boots must be hurting the author when he wore them and when he was moving. So the author became even more, he started admiring Mr. Gessler, that he knew what kind of shoes he made. So he explained that yes, these were the shoes I bought from somewhere else, and you were right that these shoes were hurting at this particular point only. So then the shoemaker harshly commented that these big firms, they are very unprofessional. They do not know the art of shoemaking. They are only busy in advertisements. They use their money and their skill in advertisements, and the shoemaking is lacking the quality. That is why the word quality is being used in this chapter. Mr. Gessler again said that in his store there are less number of people because more number of people are now being fascinated by the advertisements which are being shown by the big firms. Okay. That is why the shoe quality is deteriorating, and more people are complaining about the shoes being uncomfortable. So moving on, the author became more a fan of Mr. Gessler, that Mr. Gessler had confidence in his skills, that Mr. Gessler knew that the shoes which he was making are much better than the shoes which are being available or which are being made by the bigger firms.
All right. So is there any big message we are getting from this entire story?
Yes, ma'am. See, the one message that the author is trying to convey is that we should stick to our roots.
Okay.
Even though we are having so much of technological advancements, but the skill will be there. If you have the skill with you, you can master anything. Technology will come and go, but the skill of the human will stay.
Absolutely.
That is what the author is trying to tell us.
Okay. So that was a great story, and we've learned that if you have skills, so have confidence in your skills, and just don't get away with the advertisements and different firms, because quality is something that matters the most. So that's a great lesson, sir. But because it's a lengthy lesson for class 7 children, and they're not used to reading these long lessons, so there are students who have disabilities, who have problems in reading basically. So how would you explain this kind of a lengthy chapter to them?
See, ma'am, what we can do is we can take some themes. For instance, this chapter is talking mainly about two themes. Firstly, about skill, and secondly, about poverty.
Right.
Because when we in the end of the chapter, the author also tells us about that Mr. Gessler died because of poverty. So the author is also telling us about that along with skill, we should have the persistence also, patience also, that our skill will get us money.
Right.
And that is what happened with Mr. Gessler also. His skill got him money. But as the greed of the people grew, but Mr. Gessler stood to his roots. That is why he did not compromise with the quality, and as a result he died due to poverty. So what we can do is to make the children with reading problems understand is that we can take theme wise, we can counter to these two themes, and then our explanation can be based on these two themes.
Okay. All right, that would make it easy for them to
easier also, and ma'am, also it will make this class interesting.
Absolutely.
Because it will cut the lengthy part.
Right. So, but when we are doing an English class, the 4 things that matters the most is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So, when it comes to the speaking part, there are certain words in this entire chapter which we even heard, we spoke. We read that they are difficult to pronounce. So how would you make them easy for the children?
Yes, ma'am. See, there are certain words which are actually, this chapter is a translation from a German excerpt.
Okay.
So some words are literal translations, and some words are still taken as it is from the German translation.
Okay.
So those words which the teacher or the special educator feels are a little difficult to pronounce, those words should be tackled very patiently, and it should be discussed again and again, So the students are not confused as to what the exact pronunciation is. We should use the technique of breaking the word.
Okay.
If the word is a 7-letter word, what we should do is we should take two letters at a time and make the students understand the pronunciation, because the pronunciation of German words will be different from the pronunciation of English words.
Right.
So what that will do is that will bridge the gap between the German pronunciation and the English pronunciation.
Okay. So with one lesson, they are actually learning certain words of 2 languages, which is a great thing. But because this entire program is for inclusive classroom, and when you, being a special educator, is teaching it in an inclusive classroom, there are certain teaching learning material which you use. Initially, you said that you can use the boots or shoes and show them to the children. But apart from that, any other teaching learning material or strategies or methods, being a special educator, would you be using?
Yes, ma'am. See, first of all, the best way is to give them a real life experience. So if it is possible, the teacher or the special educator can bring real life shoes, because in school also children come in their shoes only.
Right.
So the teacher can give them examples from their shoes. It will be very clear to the students what is a shoe and what is a boot. So from there, and the other TLM which can be used is a flashcard.
Okay.
A teacher or a special educator can put pictures of different kinds of shoes and put it on a flashcard and so show it to the students. What that will do is that it will help the students to realize that yes, this can also be a shoe and this can also be a color of the shoe.
That's great. Okay. All right. So let's see the main keywords of our today's lesson. And the words are fashionable, fashionable, distinction, distinction, hardships, hardships. Okay, so let me request sir to give you the homework for this class.
Yes, see, as for homework I have put 3 questions. First question is, what was the author's opinion about Mr. Gessler as a bootmaker? Our chapter starts from that point, about the opinion of the author about the bootmaker. Then the second question, what was the effect on Mr. Gessler of the author's remark about a certain pair of shoes? Third, why did the author visit the shop so infrequently? Now what we can do is, this is the original format of a homework.
Right.
Now for the modification part, what we can do is, for children with special needs, we can convert these 3 questions into fill in the blanks. For example, what we can do is, according to the author, Mr. Gessler was a dash shoemaker. So the answer will be a very proficient or a good shoemaker. Similarly, the second part, the remark on boots made Mr. Gessler angry, or any other word that the students feel can be fit. So what it will do is that they will use different synonyms of the word. It will enhance their vocabulary.
Absolutely.
Thirdly, the author visited the shop very less as shoes were of dash quality. So the answer can be good quality.
Good, great.
Exactly, they can use any synonyms.
Okay. So this is the homework you have been allotted, and this is the homework submission format. Please submit your homework in this format. Write your name, then your class. The class in this case is 7th. Then write your school's name and address, and then write the expert's name, and in this case please write Mr. Sharvdat Anand. Please mention the date after, and which is 3rd of August 2022, and lastly please put your photograph. This is optional, but if you'll put it, it'll make it way better. And send this entire homework in this format to our email ID, which is dth.class7@ciet.nic.in. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. It was a great lesson. We really enjoyed the entire conversation, and I'm sure our students, our viewers, they also learned a lot from this entire chapter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you to our sign language interpreter as well. He interpreted each and every word we discussed in this program. So thank you to you as well. And now I would like to thank all our viewers who were watching this program. I'm sure you enjoyed it. We're wrapping up this program, but we've got a lot in store for you for this entire day. We have different subjects, we have different topics. So keep on watching PMeVIDYA channels, and tomorrow we'll come back again with our special session of teaching learning interventions for inclusive classroom sharp at 12 o'clock. So another topic will be waiting for you. Thank you so much. Take great care of yourself. Namaskar.